Good evening, folks. It's Pom here. Sunday slot live feed over here on the main Pallatrax Facebook page. What a day. It has been miserable weather. But fortunately, my lake's on top of a hill. So, though there's lots of water pushing through, which is not a bad thing, obviously, giving it a good old fresh through. And it's all either spring or rainwater. I'm not getting any water coming in from roadways or outside springs or anything like that. So, yeah, but it's looking really, really miserable out there. And around the rest of the country, it's looking even worse. Good evening, Trevor. How you doing, sir? Welcome to another one. Richard, how you doing? Good evening, good evening. So, yeah, but it's about 13 degrees out there. So really, I should be fishing this week, and I might even get my rods out. So you never know. Paul, how you doing? Hopefully that gamma's here very, very soon, Paul. Can't get blinded by my light here. One day I'm going to have a proper studio and make things look all flash and wonderful. Ian, how you doing? Yes, it is very damp mid-Devon, but I tell you what, we haven't got some of the snow and horrors up north. James, how you doing? Good to see you here. One of the main regulars. James certainly puts a lot of information up on the team page, so good on you. Matthew Rice. We're going to have Matthew Rice here hopefully next week. He's going to come in because he's the fishery manager here at Ashmansworthy Pools, and I'm going to drag him in kicking and screaming to explain all and everything. So yeah, Andy Turner. Mike Baines, how you doing? All the way from Macclesfield. Yeah, it's warmed up here. It really has warmed up here. Water's cold, Mike, because I had to get my hands in it earlier, and it's still a bit Baltic. But and I don't want to wish my life away. But at the end of next month, it's New Year, so that's not too bad. Hopefully things will warm up sooner rather than later. I keep on looking back at fishing top cats. It was only like 3 weeks ago, and it was just warm and lovely and wonderful. And now we're back to this doom and gloom. Andrew Hawkin, how you doing? Anthony, good to see you. John, Darren. Everybody's saying good evening to everybody. So I'll wait for a couple more minutes. Keith Powell. Me and Keith are scheming. Well, Keith has got the brains. I've got, well, I don't even know if I've got the brawn. But we're working on Catch More Fish, the new online magazine, which is going to go live on the 1st of January. Lots happening. Paul Bilcock. Sorry, Paul. Andre, all the way from Slovakia. Andre, we've had snow. Have you had any yet now? Stephen, Natalie, how you doing, Natalie? Don't forget, come and visit us one day. You know the door's open. We'd love to see you down here. So, Andy Turner saying warm in Essex. Paul, good evening to you as well. As there's quite a few people here now, what I shall do is tell you about, oh, hang on, somebody's sending me messages. Tonight's live feed draw. One of you fine people, you've got to be here to be in it, will win the whole selection of the straight point grips. So that's 2 through to 10, so 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. You can win that. Now all you've got to do is send yes to the Pallatrax Facebook Messenger site. So Pallatrax Facebook Messenger site. So there you go. Mick, what you want to say? Hope you're well. The plans to introduce these sweet baits for this time. Oh, are you here somewhere? Are you here somewhere? Yes, I'm. Lots of things are happening on the bait. More so to do with the team than anything. I have developed about 14 other baits over the years that we have yet to introduce. And I don't want to introduce them just for the sake of, oh, here's another flavour, here's another colour kind of thing. But there is a product, and it's how they classify it in the flavour house is ×4 strawberry, and I'm putting that together as we speak. So wait, watch your space, Mick, and it's such a proven track record, but now I've got a bit more time in the winter. I'm going to really put it forward, and it's going to be a team exclusive. So where did that's a good question. Looking forward to the mag. Yeah, it's really coming together. I mean, like I say, I don't want to sound too gushing, but Keith has taken the baton and run like I can't keep up with him. So it's really coming together, real professional look. We've invested in the software, but the key thing is an editor who's passionate and wants to see it work. So Pallatrax is backing it all the way. So it's going to be, and it's dedicated. We're not having to worry about advertisers or we've got to write this or we've got to review that. Of course, Pallatrax is going to feature in it. We can't really help that. But the main thing is we want people to put it down after they've read it, so to speak, and have learnt something or enjoyed something or started a journey from what they've been reading. So yeah, it's good. Name Pallatrax. Well, to be quite honest, Paddington Lakes and Attraction Baits. That's where it all first came from. And that's it. So it was never meant to be a brand. It was just a bit of fun when I started the bait company as a fishery management tool at my old lakes at Paddington. So that's literally where it came from. So just a made up name. One of the reasons I did make it up as well, it was right at the forefront of online stuff, and by having a made up name Pallatrax, there is only one Pallatrax, even though some people think it's the Halifax, people think it's Pallatex and things like that, but no, Pallatrax is just a made up name and it's just kind of stuck, and there we go. Keith's brain is slowly melting. Well, at least you've got one, so there we go. Hi Stephen, how you doing? Hope all's well at your end, sir. Right, where are we going? So just to thrash this out, just saying goodbye to my eldest son, who's going to wander up to Charlie's pool because he likes sleeping in the rain in a bivvy. Each to their own. So if you're interested in winning, the draw is basically send yes, and you can be able to shout to win the whole range of the straight points 2 through to 10s. Just send yes to the Pallatrax messenger page. So a couple of things I'm going to start off with. There's a few people here now. So the first thing I'm going to say, the good thing about Pallatrax is, evening Colin, I was starting to worry you weren't going to be here. Is some of the, going back to the basics, it should be all the time. There's new people getting involved in fishing all the time. There's a lot of stuff out there that, dare I say, is somewhat confusing when it doesn't need to be. I think the industry has confused. I was talking to someone yesterday about, like, if you went specimen roach fishing, there is a way to go specimen roach fishing. Darren, good evening. Ant, I love my hooks. Good man. They are a little bit special. Even I have to admit that. So the more stuff that we've sold, the more stuff that is put out there, it confuses and detracts. And like I say, if you go specimen roach fishing, there's the way to do it. There's not 1,000 different choices, and that is a big problem. So one of the questions here, Barry Chapman has asked, I'm going to do this and make it really easy peasy if my camera works. So I'm going to turn this round. So, and basically, how to show the new members how a hair rig should sit on the hook. Now, before I do anything, what I will say is this is the trouble. We've all got different interpretations. Now, I'm an old fogey now, so good evening, Alan. So I'm coming from 25 plus years of carp fishing or any style of fishing. I love my fly fishing, etc., etc. So when you're talking about length of hair and position of hair, good man, Ant. Take my hat off to you, sir. Well, they are a hook. Sorry, Ant's saying he's convinced his syndicate lake to add them to the rules. They are generally, look at the lakes in, like Top Cats and Lowy Jungle, and we've just got another one, Smoothie Fishing Club and Resort in Thailand, gone grips only, because they are all about fish safety and performance. So thanks for that, Ant. Good evening, Wayne Tester. Hope you're well. So yes, so going back to the question is, where do you put how do you have the hair? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the basics, and it never broke. So believe me, this rig is still, there's other rigs, and I only fish with a couple of rigs, but this rig I'll show you is perfectly serviceable for the majority of situations that you will find yourself in. I mean, I do use Steam Link, and I do use the Weed rig, so Steam Link's a Dyneema, but this rig is so simple and so effective and should not be ignored. So right, let me turn my camera around. Which button? That one. Right, so all I'm going to do is just show you literally, as I say, the hair. So hopefully, now this is where I'm going to have to move my hand in and out. So all I've got a big hook, basically a size 2 wide gape there. So grips, I don't even see little grip screws. I always struggle how to get this in focus, and that certainly isn't. Anyhow, so all I'm doing is using some Gamma Polyflex, so the irradiated fishing line. So all I'm going to do firstly, move the light over a bit more. I'm just going to cut off, I don't know, 12 inches or so, if I can find the end. Here. So, and like I say, this is how I fish. This is, I come from an era then where the bait and the hook is pretty much one and the same. The hair has its advantages. All I'm doing here is tying a loop into the, so for my stop. And like I say, this is actually the biggest challenge for me, because I can't see anything. I should have put my little glasses on. I look like a little Scrooge with my glasses on there. So all I've done is say just a basic overhand, and that's going to do that, just so I can show you. Always make it neat and tidy, neat and tidy. Now, whenever you're making a rig, can you use Gamma as a hook link? Yes, Richard, that's what we're doing here. Glasses, dear. Yes, so you definitely can use it as a hook link. It's a very, very good hook link. People like Tim Hodges only fish it. So there you go. So when you're making a hair rig, you're always going to go through the back. Always think the back. And then when you do that, if I can show you here, you can see there, that's where the join is. Okay, so the wire has come around here, and that's where the join. And consequently, you don't want this line going there. You always want to go around the back, because you don't want that line going in there and potentially chafing or things like that. Can even on some really fine hooks, if this hook eye is slightly opened, actually pull all the way through. So I was going to talk about the weave rig in a second, Colin. Stand by one, because I'll show you. So now, how long your hair is. I know people that swear by longer hairs. What I will say is, if you look at Galen's and underfishing and some of the underwater stuff, you'll see time and time again a fish pick up a bait and it's gone into the mouth and the hook hasn't got in, and then they've rejected the bait once they've realised it's not 100% for whatever reason. So I tend to fish very, very close. So I only have, so I'll normally take a bait and I'll put it on there, and I'll literally come up to that kind of distance. So that's something each to their own, but like I say, I tend to, because in all honesty, in all other areas of fishing, you'll find that the bait and like a lure, it's all one and the same. A fly, one and the same. Match fishing, one and the same. A worm, a maggot, whatever. So how I do it, and there is other ways of doing it, but this is the cheapest and most effective way, and this is after all these years where I am with it. And like I say, the trouble is, because there's so many interpretations of making a rig, it's so confusing. So basically, like I say, always come around the back away from the joins. So, and all I do is I literally go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I'll stop, and then I'll bunch it all up together, keep it all nice and tight. I'm keeping the hair going down the back of the shank, and I just keep on working it down until I get to a point opposite the point. So when I've got down to, so I've still got 1 or 2 more to go, so I do this on whatever size. Then when I get down to there, again, I'll bunch all those fibres up, so it's almost like whipping a fly when you're tying a fly. And then what I'll do is I'll go once round, and then, like I say, always working through the back. I've seen people go the other way, and it changes the whole dynamic of how a hair rig works. Now, hopefully you can see that. So that's what wrap round is actually just holding everything together. I don't want that to come away from the back of the shank. And what you will get, and this is the same with fluorocarbon, and one of the benefits of using mono, is you get a natural kicker. So I wouldn't put a kicker onto that. So if you look at the way that hangs, so it will do what I want it to do naturally, because the way, and that's a big reason why this rig works so well. And that's it. You can put a swivel on, you can, well, there's various ways you can, I'm just going to go to these. So if you're into the quick change, you could just literally form a loop for the quick change. Oh, it's got to be a better way of, somebody help me with, oh, I don't know. Anyway, a loop, you can have the flexi swivel affair, and you can add just a standard size 8 swivel. But that rig and that way the hair's set up, I would not have any problem fishing that whatsoever. Like I say, it's a rig, it's definitely got its time and place, it's definitely very effective. It's how I used to fish before I came across Steam Link. And like I say, that shape, that's a natural kicker. So therefore, when they suck it, it has to do, or well, we hope it does. This is a problem, isn't it? What we're looking at doing is literally hitting the gum and coming out and literally sitting like that, and we all know how sharp these hooks are. That's to do with the cutting point technology, so there you go. So an opposite way depends where it's joined. I lost a big comment because I tied on the join and it broke. There you go, Wayne. Lesson learned, lesson learned. As long as you learnt by it, but you did catch the big comment eventually, so I don't think you can be too upset. Yeah, like Rich is just going, I need better light. I've got all these different lights here, Paul. I'm just useless. Evening, Lee. Hope you and Amber are fine up north. Who have I got? So yeah, so Richard Ward, a few people have come back to you then and said, yeah, I mean, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. And because it's been irradiated, you've got a really high abrasion resistant hook link as well. And it sinks. So, just be careful. Rigs are probably one of the biggest areas that I kind of find disturbing in many ways, because basically everybody's doing something different. You know, 3 times. Yes, there you go. And as we always make each rig exactly the same, exactly, Colin. All my rigs are exactly the same, like all my fly patterns, and you know, that's the way you do it. Look at the match angler. Match anglers have these set rigs, and they're all literally replication of each other. You look at carp fishing, and now into barbel fishing, now into tench fishing, bream fishing, utilising hair rigs. They're just all over the place. So the only thing you can get consistency is with inconsistency is inconsistency. So if you keep on having all these different rigs and different lengths and different size hooks and different this and different that, you'll never get consistency. Can you use stink on it? I think, Andy, you meant shrink. But if it is stink, I don't know on that one. But I wouldn't, like I say, I wouldn't use, I've lost it now. I wouldn't use shrink, because the idea is to create this shape with the shrink. So by doing it, you won't create what you've got created naturally. If I hold it up there, no, that's useless. One day we'll get all this sorted. So yeah, so you don't need, when you're talking a stiff rig, so be it fluorocarbon, obviously, which is even stiffer, or monofilament, you don't need to put any shrink on there. Matt Wise, how you doing, sir? Hope well after all the fish you've been catching. So, exactly, Stephen, you can't, I come from that era, you know, and there's lots of things happening, lots of stuff. I was watching something yesterday on YouTube, and I tend to watch the kind of underwater stuff. I'm not really into all this stuff about, oh, look at this is a wonderful and you must buy it kind of thing. And there was no disrespect intended here at all, but there was 2 youngish lads, 21, 22, I guess, something like that. And they were speaking with great authority, which is fine. And perhaps they, well, you know, I mean, some of the stuff they were coming out with, which is, you know, they're a branded company. They put it out there on YouTube. They get literally hundreds of thousands of hits. And therefore people potentially can believe it. But I would say just be very careful making assumptions, because some of the stuff that's put out there is put out there by the brands to get you to buy things, which is the way of the world. I appreciate that. But also, if it's not right, you're going to catch a lot less fish. And that's my fear. People are going fishing, they're buying a new thing and one thing and another. That rig is like the basic rig from centuries, well, from, you know, decades ago, and that will still catch you plenty of fish. There's plenty of rigs out there that are so complicated, so jingly jangly, that the odds of you actually catching are really, really reduced. So yeah, Stephen's correct there. So hopefully, if that explains, so, but always make sure that the for me, because you can make a D rig, you can do all these other things, but for me, I'm very much simplified, and I just have the hair coming back down the shank of the hook, and easy peasy, lemon squeezy, and it will work. And I say that one of the reasons I'm convinced this works, impossible to tell, but it works, is because of that angle, that natural angle. So when the bait comes in, this hits the lip, and then as it ejects, it pulls it down. So, but we've always got to be very careful, because what happens to one fish at one angle doesn't necessarily mean the same happens all the time. So, and just a quick plug, well, there's a few more of us here. Anybody who wants to win the whole range of the straight points, 2 through to 10s, just send yes through to the Pallatrax Facebook Messenger page, the Pallatrax one. Matt's saying, of all my fish recently have come to simple hair rig on a supple braid, cannot wrong, no need to add added metalwork. And I'm with you, Matt, there. So. Sorry, my opinion on YouTube and TikTok influencers, the majority are more about elevation and promotion. I think you definitely got something there, Ian. There's definitely something we need to be careful. But I suppose at the end of the day, that's natural. We just need to make sure Matt Rice has got no chance of winning. Yeah, just make sure that, because some of it obviously is good. Some of it's really, really, you know, follows excellent ways of fishing and dealing with things and things like that. But a lot of it obviously is contrived. And I'm in that difficult position because I'm just like you folks. I'm just another angler, got parachuted into this industry, decided when I had my first tackle shop and first lakes that I don't need to pamper to the narrative, because it wasn't making a great deal of sense. You know, bait with no food value, rigs that just didn't work, etc., etc. And so you go out there and you say, right, I want to look for the best fishing line. I can't make the best fishing line. I can't make any fishing line. I've got to go to white label, which is what all manufacturers do. And obviously I stumbled across Gamma, and Gamma, you can't beat the facts, the scientific proof that Gamma from a monofilament point of view is superior to any other monofilament. Not because I'm contrived, but the science of irradiated copolymer is what it is. So I struggle, because I always, when I have a chat, it's always like, oh, well, you're saying grips are really good, but I can't help it because I believe they are. So absolutely, that's why I put majority as exactly. You know, you got to just work your way through it. But some of the stuff out there is pretty shocking, to be honest. What you do is amazing. Thank you very much, Ant, and people like yourself. And there's loads of us out there now, because it's a collective, it's a community. We're revisiting. Evening, Mick. Hope you're well, and the family. So it is a community. So the more we can, I suppose, appreciate and respect, there is another narrative, there is another way of fishing. Like I would humbly say, you are always going to be more confident and better off from an angling perspective and a fishery management perspective to use a high quality bait that doesn't impact negatively. So if somebody says, no, that's not the truth, well, you know, I can't, it's like banging your head against the wall, isn't it? It's like when I was in the police and the crooks used to go, no comment, no comment. But you sit there with you had the axe over the victim, no comment. And it's a bit like that. I get very frustrated when some of the stuff's put out there, lead is followed, and then you can't put forward a narrative on. And that certainly happened in the formative years of Pallatrax, when we never got an opportunity to explain the methodology and the reasoning behind, you know, the design. But with social media, with Team Pallatrax, the new magazine, you know, YouTube, carpology films, all this kind of stuff, at least I can put it out there. And I'm not here to force anything on anybody. All I can say is these are the conclusions I've drawn. You know, it's up to you if you want to kind of follow that lead as such. And I take nothing from it when I say lead. We're all in the mix together. It doesn't matter who comes up or who makes suggestion or whatever. It's not a personal thing for me. It's a collective, if that makes sense. But Matt, just going back to Matt Wise, and Matt's certainly proved, you know, he's fishing some difficult waters and catching a lot of fish. And though my favourite rig for lots of different reasons is the Steam Link rig. It does a lot of things that I always am very aware of, especially certain presentation things like that. But what Matt's saying, and this one has, and this is the weed rig that Colin was saying, and unfortunately Colin, Tinny's ill, and only Tinny can put these on the site. So they've all been done, all the photos, all the wording, so they will be going on the team exclusive at some stage very soon. I know the cats one have gone on, but this rig here has caught me so many fish. And this, I've just got a piece of non-toxic shot. Man, let's try and get it in focus. So that's to counterbalance, because I tend to fish either a single 14, And again, you'll see my hair coming straight back down the back. Or yeah, single 14 squad pop up or 2 10 mils. That's very much a tactical approach. And then this, because it's so supple, and I think one of the reasons this works for me so well is that I tend to fish this in the method, and I will wrap this excess back in. And the concern is with an extended rig, so when you've got a rig like that and it's extended, if the fish comes and sucks on it and it's coming from an angle, that won't go back in. Whereas this, the weed rig, as I call it, because I fish it I fish it everywhere, to be fair. The last 4 fish I've had out of the lakes here, they've all been on this rig. But because you've got that element of slack and it's sitting in amongst all the method, when the fish sucks, it just draws this back in. So it's going to go back 2 or 3 inches. And that's why I think, again, it's got more chance to take a pickup. So it's, like Matt says, simple, and it makes it very, very easy. Right, hang on a second, let me have a quick slurp of my only squash. I've still got lurgy. I was meant to be in a meeting about the new rods tomorrow, but we've had to cry off. All right, Andy Turner. I've got loads of questions here, but let's go for this one. Hi, Simon. You get better. Thanks for that, Mike. What is your take on steam or boil boilers? I see some companies are going the steam way. That's different, and is there a different? What is the difference, and is there a difference? What I would suggest, first of all, it's actually, you could sit there and debate some of these things, and I think again you get into the problem arises when you're actually not focusing on the main thing, whether boiling or steaming has a detrimental or a positive effect. I'm not say we shouldn't consider, but what should be considered is the actual base ingredients. So it's all well and good saying, oh, steaming's better. Well, it'll only be better if the bait is actually got an ingredient profile that is better. And this is the trouble. This is the quandary with bait. This is one of the reasons why I'm writing the book, to really try and drill down and get people to understand that bait is not made of an ingredient called bait. I've said this many, many a time, and I apologise for repeating it, but it's really, really important. So however you finish off, personally, we boil our baits. So I've looked at steaming. Of course, there's schools of thoughts, but ultimately it's what it's made of. So if you think whether you boil a bit of broccoli or steam a bit of broccoli, that's still broccoli. But if you're doing something with loads of different ingredients or hardly any ingredients, not all boilies and boil baits are made equal, whether they're steamed or not. It is purely down to the ingredients, and that's what I would implore you, always check your ingredients, because when you then start to look at steamed, that's the only time I suppose you can actually make a direct comparison to baits that are exactly the same. One's been boiled, one's been steamed. And what I would say is, I've been doing this a long time. I'm not here to say to people how, but for me, I'm happy with the way we do it, because I wouldn't sell stuff to yourselves or allow it to be put into other fisheries, including my own fisheries, if it wasn't the best I could possibly make. But steaming is something, it's there, people have said about it, etc., etc. But what they're doing is they're missing the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is what is it made of, regardless whether it's going to be steamed or boiled. Does that make sense? I hope so, because it's a really important thing. So many people have literally said to me, oh, it's made of strawberries, and it's like, no, it's not. And you don't want to kind of appear disrespectful, but it's also very difficult to actually articulate if you think about it, because when people have got these mindsets, and certainly when certain companies have put out their narrative, people are going to believe it. So it's very difficult to pull people back to the basics of what is the base made of, what are the binders, what if any preservatives are used. That's all the important things, and then how it's actually finished off, I would suggest, is quite low on the scale of important. Make sense? Right, there we go. Where's Colin? Thanks, Mike, for assuming that they're personally blessed. Yes, these ones, team exclusives, they're all me. It's the Weave Rig braid. Yes, it is. That's a 12 and 15 pound braid, Pallatrax braid. Did you do a snag link once? We did. Well, that was a 30 pound. I can't get it anymore. They stopped manufacturing it. But what we have got now is a 60 pound, which is we use on the cats rigs. So, Steve Bryan, how you doing, sir? Ant's got the lurgy as well. I had loads of people who got it. I've had it like for 10 days. It's awful. Tinny's really rough, but there we go. Where it become available. Yeah, there we go. So Rich is helping me out there. I am led to believe the steaming process is a higher temperature than boiling. Honestly, Mike, I've looked into it. You need different machinery, steaming kind of cupboards to put it all in, things like that. And we've got a way that I've been making bake for 25 years now. And like I say, I've looked into it. It's not for me, but that doesn't mean it isn't for other people. Obviously, I'm not here to critique, but like I say, go back to the main thing about it's all about the ingredients. Hi, John. How you doing, sir? Hope you and the family are all good. So just quickly while I'm at it, because a couple of people have already mentioned it. So there is 3 versions. In the different, and these are Pallatrax team exclusives. So if you're here and you're not a Pallatrax member, please, I did have a flyer earlier. Please feel free to join. Just go over to my Pallatrax website. It's free to enter, free to join, and there's a load of benefits. And to say the weed rigs, they come actually with the shot. You can take the shot off if you want to use it as a bottom, and they come with all the different, straight point, curve shank, wide gape. So there we go. So they will be on the team exclusive page some stage this week, as soon as Tinny can function. And I don't think that's too soon at the moment. She's rough as a badger, but there we go. Terry, how you doing? Everything all good at your end? So if you've got any questions, folks, just shout out because a few more people have bobbed in to join us. If you're in for a chance, want a chance, win the draw. So we'll be drawing that in a quarter of an hour. All you've got to do is to win and be in with a chance. The odds are pretty damn good, far better than the lottery. That's for certain. The whole range of the straight point grips. All you've got to do is send yes to the Pallatrax messenger page. Owen, how you doing, sir? Right. This is a good one. Paul, I think Paul's here still. Are you, Paul? Paul Simmons. What's the telltale signs of oxygen starvation in a lake? The easiest way to tell, doesn't tell you necessarily anything about why you've got, is you will see fish gar. A good man, Terry, good man. Is you'll see fish gasping. That is, or unfortunately, a lot of times, when it's been in like an overnight and there's nobody around and things like that, you'll see floating fish that have died. And a lot of the main signs though is you'll see fish literally on the surface gasping, trying to get some trying to get some air into them. And the real question is, I always would say, is if that happens, you have to say, why is it happening? And personally, there'll be people out there that will try and shoot you down in flames. I've been doing this, as I say, without any arrogance for 25 years. I started Pallatrax all about fish safety, fishery management, using it as a fishery management tool. If you're going to put stuff in there that hasn't been certified in any way, shape or form, so depositing lots of lead, that's going to harm the substrate life. And more so baits that have got no food value, so nothing eats it, they sit and rot. And so therefore that is one of the reasons I believe that we're getting a lot of oxygen crashes nowadays. Lots of bait going in and then it rots because nothing eats it. That's what you've got to understand, is it is not food. Bait does not equal food, which is almost like a tagline for me in many ways. And it sits there. It could be, in some of these waters, you're talking hundreds, if not more kilos of these, this stuff. I suppose that's the best way. And when it rots down, it just contaminates the water and you get oxygen crashes, especially if you get the perfect storm with different weather conditions as well. But the main sight you'll see is you'll start to see fish struggling. What I would say is if you're there on a lake and you can see it in the canal, you can see it, not necessarily in this very slow rivers, you'll see you have more the potential. Rivers, unfortunately, are liable now to pollution because the water companies aren't held to account, which is absolutely disgusting. But on a lake, if you see it and there's no ammonia, Wayne, that's not how to spell ammonia. I'll come back to you in a second, Paul. I've lost my school of thought now. This is Wayne saying ammonia with an E. That's a first for me. But if you do see fish struggling and there's nobody around from the fishery, the management, the owner or anything like that, get onto the EA. I mean, to be fair, they are pretty good. If they know, they'll bring pumps. I mean, I here at my fishery, for the 3 pools, I've got a diffused air system, which is like stone blocks on the bottom, which bubble water, bubble air, which is all about water quality. But also I've got the paddles. So basically they're a full aerator. They smash oxygenated oxygen back into the water. So if I had a problem, but I think the good thing for me is because we regulate what bait goes in and what amounts go in, we're always going to be ahead of the curve. We're not worrying about that. So what does Paul say? Leaves rotten. I mean, there's lots of schools of thought, Paul, and the thing is, every fishery can be potentially different pH levels, different acidity. There's so many things going on. Yes, it can cause problems, but nothing like bait, because we're talking leaves are a natural thing. You know, it's happened for centuries, if not a lot longer. Could it cause detrimental effect? Potentially. But it would have to be a huge amount, and I would say more to do with the perfect storm, a combination of things happening. But it certainly isn't. That's right, Wayne. Back to the top of the class. Yes, I would say it's not a problem for me. We do, when the leaves go in here, because we don't want loads of silt and sediment and things like that, we will take the leaves out the margins. The biggest problem for me with leaves is that they fall onto the grassed out areas and kill all the grass underneath it. So we're forever raking leaves up, but that's the main thing. I'm not that worried, I must admit, about them on my waters. But obviously some lakes are surrounded by trees and no doubt cause problems, especially with the amount of, when they rot down, the amount of kind of silt and debris that you get laying on the bottom of the lake. Terry, quick question, Simon and family. Now it's getting colder, would you use hemp and sweet corn on a small spawn? Yes. The guy that taught me how to carp fish when I had my first lakes, I bought these lakes, didn't know nothing about carp fishing or tench. Well, I did. I caught like tench and stuff as a kid. Carp weren't around when I was a youngster. Baldy Dave, who showed me how to really, get into my carp fishing, he is still an excellent angler. And I'll be going around the lake on the quad or something like that in the winter when I first took the place on, and saw this little chap. He's only about 5'4", Dave, flat cap, and he was there. He had a little Gardner pocket rocket, and he used to put out 3 or 4 little of these spods, hemp and sweet corn. That's what it was, and he crave. He developed crave with me when he actually worked for me at one stage, and he put that out, and I always use it. Corn and sweet corn. I mean, it's funny. The other day, Mike came down here, one of the team members, and I said, "Have you got any sweet corn with you?" He goes, "No." So I had some tins of sweet corn, so I gave him some. Next thing is he's fishing just a single grain of it on the old iBite float ledger system, and he had a 28 pounder, which was a new PB for him, which was fantastic. Never ever think, and people say to me all the time, well, shouldn't you be selling us bait? You've got bait. No, you cannot beat some of this natural stuff. Tears and hemp and red band, mixed particles, sweet corn. There's so many things out there that are fantastic baits that I think, because the industry's become such a big industry, so much money around, there's no real focus on these things. And like I always say, none of this stuff never broke, folks. Look at the old books, look at the old magazines before advertising came in and changed the whole direction of the industry, and you'll find out, I wouldn't say throw in loads of luncheon meat, because it's not a particularly something that you want in a lot of. But there's nothing wrong with fishing a lump of luncheon meat or a lump of cheese on the hair. Excellent baits. Like the amount of fish when I was a kid we catch on cheese. Especially back in those days, I don't know if they still do it now, but it was a mature cheese laced with elderberry, and that was just amazing. So there we go. There we go. Matt, sorry, I'm just going to go. So hopefully that makes sense. Yes, Terry, if you go to my freezers now, they're full of hemp that we've cooked out and they will be used. But all I would say is don't use loads, a little bit. You know, the one thing about bait, and again, understanding your bait, is you can always put more in. You can't take it out if you put too much in. Fish for those bites this time of year and then top it up with a little bit more once you've caught a fish. So that's my advice, and that's what I was taught, and it certainly works. As freebies, yes, and like I say, you know, use 3 grains of Oh, it's been a long day. 3 grains of corn, maize. Maize is another good bait. On the hair, you know, I've caught some huge poogie fish, massive fish. Don't think that you have to use a boil bait or a pellet to catch more. You don't. Matt is right. So Matt's in the fishery management game. So he's saying biomass hasn't been correctly managed, causes a lot of problems in most venues. I see it most days. And what Matt's saying there is basically there's levels depending on the volume of water of the amount of stock that should be in there. And certainly when you've got lakes that you've got no way of knowing, and if people are, you know, and the fish are spawning, or they've been loads of fish have been put in there, so anglers are going to catch more fish and things like that. It's you reap what you sow, and if there's too many fish and poor baits and all of this, like I say, you end up with this perfect storm, and there's not enough oxygen basically to go around, and so you'll see a lot of these lakes, small lakes, massively overstocked, uncontrolled amounts of baits. It's just a recipe for disaster. And the best way to look at it is just look at a lake as a fish tank. And if you had loads of fish in a fish tank, too many in the fish tank, and then you just kept on pouring stuff in there that had no place to be in there, they'd die. And it's one easy way of looking at it, but Matt's totally right. Too many fish causes problems. Where are we going? Pepper Army, yes, you're right there, Wayne. Baldy Dave, good man. I spoke to him the other day, Wayne. He's going to come down here soon. Sweet corn is the best all-round baits. I've caught so many fish on it. Exactly. You know, you can sit there and question why. You know, some people say the crunch. Some people will say the sweet texture to it. You know, it's very, you know, and things like that. And but for whatever reason, it's colour, visual in the right location. But I tell you what, it catches a ridiculous amount of fish. And I say, if we all said today, right, every angler is only going to use corn, I tell you what, thousands and thousands of fish will be getting caught on it. I've got Monty in my head now. Your mother has a hamster and your father, he's... Dear me. What's this here? My first 3 carp, we're on corn, that's Wayne, there you go. Piece of corn topped with red maggot, great in the winter, yeah. Well, naturals, you know, can you beat naturals? You know, I'm no fan of live baiting for lots of different reasons, but I suppose I'm a bit hypocritical because I will use a worm or a maggot. And I don't think you can beat them. You look at some of the well-known anglers that have been catching lots of fish in the last 2 years, and it's now that they're confessing to using huge amounts of worms. It's probably only affordable to these kind of people because they're sponsored and things like that. But naturals, you know, especially in the winter, because the fish go into this kind of moribund kind of state, they're almost like in hibernation. You've got a better chance of catching on maggots, you know, the bigger fish, instead of the little fish coming and nibbling all away. So chickpeas, yes, Pete, you're right there. That's another. Oh, there's loads of them. Like I say, if you go back 30, 40 years and look at what we were fishing, and then you look at what we're using now, it's so far apart. And we were catching loads of fish 40 years ago. So yeah, do I would suggest anybody new to fishing, don't just take and make the assumption that what we're being told to do is what I would say, and I don't care, I'm putting my head above the parapet, and people could say, well, actually, Pom, you're doing the same thing. I am, but I honestly believe in what I'm doing 100%. So I have no fear of saying, well, I use this kit for this reason. I can defend everything I'm doing. So that's why I always say, question everything, assume nothing. So, yeah, it's so much of the old stuff is being dismissed, and I fear one of the reasons me and Keith are doing the magazine is because we're going to highlight some of these things, because if not, they're going to disappear in the fog of time. And all of these cheap ways of going fishing with bait, you can get sweet corn for literally next to nothing, and it's going to be far better than a boiled bait or a steamed bait with no ingredients, that's for certain. Andy Turner's saying he's used a Vitamin Dog is that muesli? I don't know. Is that like a dog biscuit, or is that like I'm not too sure what you're saying there, Andy. All I would say in caution in regards to that, and as a fishery owner myself, we don't surface fish with dog biscuits. We surface fish with qualified floaters that are actually for fish. I'd just be very careful when you're using some of these things, these kind of bulking stuff. I'm not saying they don't work, but they shouldn't really go in any huge quantity into a watercourse, because you're not feeding dogs, it's fish and invertebrate life. So there we go. This is a good one. This is a really good one. We'll be drawing in a second. Ian Brookman's saying, and this is reflective of Team Pallatrax, and I think the kind of mentality we've got as almost like like-minded people. And I suppose this goes not just within Team Pallatrax; it will go out along. Is it possible we could start a help an angler feed? There was a guy this week that posted saying he was worried about going fishing as he had a heart attack. This was on the team page a while ago. Now he doesn't have confidence to go fishing. As we have so many members, and we have well over 3,700 now, I thought Pallatrax anglers could post saying when they would be going fishing and where. That way, any other anglers going to the venue could then meet those in need of some help. This could be a range of things, from help with rigs to actually helping with setting up. It was just a thought. As a bailiff on Three Waters, it is not uncommon for myself to spend some time with an angler in need of a bit of help. And I think that's not only commendable, but definitely. And that is a big part in of what Team Pallatrax is always about. It's always been there. It's there to help. And the more people can offer and put out there, I know some will be cynical because some of the hate and horrors online, but we know that Team Pallatrax is fully moderated, and anybody that wants to shout out and say to people, I'm going fishing this weekend or tomorrow, whatever. And we are actually seeing that. We are seeing people who have met through the team and now are going fishing together. But I applaud that attitude. We need to help people, especially in the confused state angling is nowadays. So, good one. What's old Wayne saying here? A bit of a long one. Also had a major conversation about the barbed and barbless hooks online today. We all have an opinion, but the biggest problem is the angler removing a barbed hook. Once educated, it's easy, but I see more people making a mess of it. Where am I? Well, that's why I design grips, and that's not me being, up myself. There is real problems. What I would say, if you go all the way back, and I say this all the time, go back to the beginning. Don't look at anything else other than the beginning. And barbed hooks were there for a reason. They were for catch to kill. That's it. That's why they were developed. So people, when they were setting up long lines, a fish would come along, it would get hooked, and then the barb would hold it in place. When the next day you come in and bring your long line in. Then when catch and release became more prevalent, you had the barbless, the development of barbless. So basically you've ended up with two hook points. Now some people say to me, there's a third hook point, it's called micro barb. Not within the manufacturing industry. It's barbed or it's barbless. Yes, some barbs are smaller than other barbs, but so then you have the problem with barbless, and this is my opinion, but to give me, defend myself, I suppose, I'm very keen on this as a fishery owner and as an angler, that we cause as little damage, if no damage, if we can. The problem with barbless is the way we're fishing nowadays, especially with high test curve rods, you can get the hook, basically slack line's created, the hook starts to emerge, slack line is taken out, and so the hook is just on the inside, and then it pulls and you get a skipping and a slice mouth. But the removal of a barbed hook, I'm sorry, you always, whatever anybody says to me, and I find it quite disturbing when people say you won't get any damage from removing a barb. All I would say is stick a barb in your own hand and try and get it out without causing more damage than you would with a barbless. If you get a barbed hook and it goes in your hand, certainly with kids or dogs or water voles or anything like that, you won't get it out. Humans, we can go to hospital, but you will not get a barbed hook out of a bird can't get it out of its, feathers or its wing or whatever, or a dog or out of its paw. So, like I say, there's again all this stuff put out there, but if you go right back to the beginning and look at what it is, I mean, I genuinely believe that we've come to another level now with grips. If we can make something better than grips, fantastic, because it should not be about profit, it should be about safe performance. But anybody who says I won't cause any damage, or people don't cause any damage to removing a barb, I'm sorry, that's not true. And also the biggest concern for me, two concerns, we were talking about this yesterday as well, is if you've got they've gone about the lead catching up and things like that, and you should drop the lead. Absolute drivel. What it is if a fish on a barbed rig is trailing over the line, that is the problem, because they will hang up that line and then starve potentially to death. The other thing is, if you've got a barbed hook and it won't come out, you've then got an opening which allows bacteria and all kinds of nasties to get into the fish and again cause a load of problems. And as Matt will no doubt back me up here, fish that are ill, that have got low immunity, and they create that perfect storm of actually bringing them the health of the fishery down. So you're always going to have these arguments. The industry is always going to do. The good thing for me, I'm not involved with it anymore. We've got grips, and I know grips do the job of barbless better and do well. I'm anti-barbed, full stop, and I wouldn't ever use them unless it was catch to kill, and I don't do that, so it's not for me. Hopefully that makes sense, but it can be a dangerous place online, can't it? You can get into all kinds of tiffs. But I suppose the irony in a lot of it is a lot of people that are saying these things, they actually haven't got a Scooby-Doo. They're just saying what they've seen on YouTube or heard or whatever. And I think what we should all do is make sure we know the true facts. And if it's not, we can't come up with the facts because it's based on assumption, because we can't see anything. At least go along the lines of circumstantial evidence. I'm sorry, those people that protect barb, I do wonder why. I actually think it's far more skillful as well, not using a barb. No worries at all, Ian. I think it's a really, 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 really good thing to highlight again. Mike uses method feeder balls with hemp and pellet. Yeah, exactly, sir. Maybe can do a list of what areas people are from to help. But to be quite honest, Paul, they're from, in Team Pallatrax, they're from all over, well, the world. Like we've got Andre here from Slovakia. We've got our Canadian colleagues. We've got people in Germany, America, France, Holland, Belgium. So, but lots of people in this country. And again, it's something that we'll focus on now that Ian's kind of highlighted it, that we can, we'll try and get people to say, well, I'm going fishing next weekend at Fred's Lake or whatever. Is anybody in the area want to come along with me, or yada yada? Some people obviously like the solitude of fishing. If other people are happy to meet up, fantastic. Anthony's saying, I need a fishing friend that can take me as I don't drive and my mate isn't always free to go. Well, like I say, just shout out on the page, Anthony. Say where you live, say which days you can go fishing, and I bet you get a few people that will be more than happy. Because I don't know, let me have a quick slurp. Especially now, fishing can be quite isolated. When I was a kid, it wasn't. There was loads of groups of us. Now, obviously, with the advent of carp fishing, you can be in a bivvy, don't see other people around you, you're quite a ways away from other people and things like that, so it's not necessarily as friendly. But it can be if you go out there and say, look, anybody up for fishing? There's nothing wrong with it, is it? So shout out on the page, Anthony. I'm sure you'll get some. Yes, you will feel it rip when you remove it. Totally agree. That's Wayne talking about barbed. And that's what happens. I don't know how people can defend the indefensible. Removing a barbed hook is always going to be far more difficult than removing a barbless or a grips. That's just a fact. And how people argue over it is beyond me. And is it because Many of the stars, they like using barb because the fish won't drop off. They've got less chance of it. I don't know. Perhaps that's a question we should be asking. But certainly you try and remove a barb and it's going to give, at the very least, a bigger hole and take a lot longer and therefore create more problems. So with you all the way there, Wayne. Barb ripped the pieces. I know, done it myself. Yeah, exactly, Trevor. I find using a barb hook, you often need forceps. Exactly. Anthony's saying we've got a lot of people talk about barb hook. Hate barbed hooks, even in sea fishing. The amount of sea brown caught this after bleed from the mouth after removing the hook. Yeah, and again, you know, I mean, we had a nice comment today I put up on the team page about, you know, the trebles, and you know, the fact is that they're so the grips are so easy to remove. Trebles, especially deep hook trebles, is just a nightmare on pike. Barbers on the wall. The club I am have banned is that barbed on the water I use, I think, Andy, you're saying? Well, look, to be quite honest, it's quite strange. Though you see a high percentage of influence using barbed hooks, I would say 95% of the fisheries I know are banned barbed. And that's because they're looking at it from a fishery management point of view as much as anything. Because, as I say, tethered fish on barbed rigs is a real problem. And it's so cruel, so horrible. So it's almost like, you know, when they say the fox that gets his leg caught in a trap, you know, he's going to starve it to death. Or what's even worse is they will chew the leg off. Fish can't do that. They just hang out. I've seen it in my fisheries where I found a fish tethered up like a bag of bones and basically dead because it's starved to death because it's all, the line is all tackled up and it can't get out. And one fish I had, the mouth was just a mess where it had been trying to saw away. There's so many things that we're not covering in fishing that should be told to people. The reason is fishery management should always be key. Fish safety and safety of the whole environment. So a lot of us obviously on the same wavelength here. Ian Brooke was saying on a podcast by Corner a couple of months ago, the guys all agreed that barbless drop no more than barbed. Yeah, this is the thing. I've not fished barbed since I was a kid, and I can remember damaging mouths like gudgeon and things like that with barbed. And as long as you keep your rod, well, your line taut and your rod bent over, they shouldn't drop off unless you've got a poor hook hole where it's just hooked on the side of the lip or something like that. It's only when you get slack line, and the trouble is nowadays what you're using, you know, people now selling £4 test curve rods, there's no give at all, so therefore that creates problems. But no, I don't think for a minute. I actually think it's more skill to it, as I said. You've got that knowledge in the back that you have to keep that line and fight the fish properly. There is no excuse then, I suppose, to drop the fish. And the club I am is looking at making it first aid kit compulsory. Yeah, I mean, we have that here at my fishery. Everybody, well, we actually supply the propolis and the antiseptic. My last fishery, so we're talking 20 odd years ago now. I mean, as long as people had access to it, I was happy. But so if there was a group of 10 people, as long as one of them had access, as long as somebody could treat a fish if there was a problem. And I think, again, it should be, it's almost like fishing licenses. It should come with that. Every angler should have to have certain things. So forceps or a disgorger and antiseptic spray of some sort. Because if we're going to take the fish out of their environment, they might have damage from historic angling or from spawning or for whatever reason. At least we can give them some medication and hopefully put them on the road to recovery. It's not too much to ask. Where are we? No sides tonight. No, I'm feeling rough, Ian. Feeling rough. It's normally a rum, isn't it? Ian, look, love fishing with others, but also love it on my own thoughts. Yes, I know what you're saying there. Lee Jackson saying, who's very much catching some cracking perch, haven't you, Ollie? Grips trails really are game changer, much kinder. Yeah, well, I agree with you, and that's not just because it's contrived, Lee. It's it's the design, and that's the frustration. And if you're in my shoes, you probably realise that, when you've got something that is so good that, we've recently won some really big awards and things like that, but you're up against a narrative within an industry. They don't want the grips to succeed, not one piece. Because at the end of the day, they're all selling barbed or barbless. I'm selling a third thing. I'm selling it as genuinely as cheap as I can. Every hook costs so much more because it's imprinted with the grooves and then it's created using the cutting point. But I don't care. It's a really, really cool idea. It doesn't matter who it came from. And if it's helping anglers from performance and it's helping fish from its benefits, that can only be a good thing. What's Ian say? I often tell people the common I caught on the Zig when I was down there, Ashton's really pools using grips. The fish was in the lilies for 10 minutes and the grips hook stayed put. Yeah, well, they're designed to do that, Ian. So, you know, that's the cool thing. Once you're on it, I mean, must admit, and again, it's not, I don't want to sound contrived, but I've been doing this game, like say, over 26 years now. And I've been selling products for many a moon, and I cannot believe, on one hand I can, I suppose, because it's true, but on the other hand I can't believe how many people actually stop. I actually had a card 2 weeks ago from somebody who had written me a thank you card. I thought, what's that all about? It came through the post and it was just saying thank you for developing the grips. And the amount of independent people who have literally just reviewed it and said game changer. So there we go. That's what I said. How many fish have caught on barbless fishery with a hook still in it? Once that was James, and he lost it at Pallatrax an hour before. There we go. The club also banned that twig thing. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I keep away from the industry, to be fair. I just do my own thing. Remember getting a barbed hook in my foot many years ago. Never used barb again after that. Yeah, well, I can remember. You know, like I say, I look at the bigger picture. Dogs, kids, water voles, bird life. So it's not just, so when they come out with the argument, barb's better, barb doesn't cause damage and things like that, they're not looking at the big picture, Any road, we're down to, I've got one more question and then I must go. You can hear what Tinny possibly coughing away in the background. So I'm going to, oh, hang on a second. Oh, sorry. Past the result of the competition, so I'm going to do that in a second, but I've just asked this question. Owen Larry, with the colder winter months now upon us, why do some species of fish still feed better than others in the cold water temperature, mainly pike, perch and chub? Predominantly it's because they're predators. So your pike, one fish that will still basically under 39 degrees, most fish tend to, like most coarse fish, so your carp, your tench, your etc. They go into what they call a moribund state, and so if the water temperature drops below that and stays below that, they basically go into hibernation. And every now and again they will still wake up and have a little feed, but the predators keep on going all year round. So your pike, your perch, your zander. Another fish that does definitely carry on feeding in the colder climes is grayling, though they sit in a bit of a grey area between coarse fish and game fish. But yeah, predominantly it's the predators keep on feeding all year round, whereas the other fish don't do it as far as much. So that's really what it is. And so as soon as those temperatures rise, and then we're talking water temperature, you have just lost feed. Am I gone? Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure if I've gone here. Somebody said I've gone, but hopefully I haven't. Have I gone? Can anybody hear me? Oh, I'm just about to announce the winner. Can anybody say I'm still here? Or have I gone? Oh, I don't know if this is working or not. Hang on a second, I'm going to shout out. Yeah. Oh yeah, so still here. There we go. Thank you. Right, so anyhow, that was the last one. So yes, that's why it's always good to go for your pike and your perch in the winter, because they will still be on the munch. So fantastic. I think I've right, so I just read something else and drum roll, here we go. So what I will say is this is going to be my last little bit. I'll come back to you in a second. Hang on a second, what's Carl said he's saying? I came across Pallatrax after using Preston Innovation pinch barbless hooks, which have been discontinued. Could never work out. They did work just like grips, but slightly different. Yes, I remember those. Anything's better than barbs. Yes, we're all on the same page, I think. Or at least most of it. Most of us. Right, let me just whiz this round. Thanks for that, Carl. So the live feed raffle, so they're going to win this bundle of the old awesome grips, is Paul. Is that Knuckle? I'd like to think. So Paul, if you're still here, congratulations. You have won tonight's prize. All you have to do is send your name and address on the Pallatrax Facebook message page, and we will get those off to you. So Paul, congratulations, you are still here. If not, we will drop you a message on Facebook and track you down. You will have your hooks. Anyway, folks, I'm going to go away and feel sorry for myself. Have a nice cup of hot Ribena. That's terrible, isn't it? I will be back on the team page next week. I will be popping up for a couple of live feeds during the week as well, because there's a few things to update on the team page. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions, you know where I am. I'm always here, always available for a chat. So always feel free to either message me, you can phone me in the office. I might not get back to you straight away, but I promise I always get back to people within 24 hours. So there we go. But thanks for keeping me company. Hope there's been it's been interesting. It's been nice talking about questions, feeding back, listening to what you've all had to say as well. So it's been good. Good. Anyway, you stay safe. Stay away from the floodwaters, keep warm, keep safe, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Good night.